That's dark. Boys. That's dark as shit.
That
Getting
intro,
ready for
it
this.
scared me a little bit.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do.
It's like Stranger Things on acid. It scared the piss out of me.
Yeah, this is much darker than Stranger Things, though.
That's true.
How's everybody doing? This was a Patreon requested show from our good buddy Carter Derdention. He always picks cool shit for us to do.
Yeah, Carter's always doing stuff like this and freaking everybody out, but I'm proud of him.
Yeah. So we got some people in here. We're going to wait a little bit, give you a heads up, because there's a few other people streaming tonight. We don't appreciate that, Uncle Bill. Tonight's supposed to be our night.
Are there people streaming tonight? I don't pay attention to that shit.
I don't know. There's always people streaming. I don't care what people do. They can shut up.
There'd be 30 of you motherfuckers streaming. I ain't gonna watch none of you. I don't even watch all shit. Fuck you.
We got Allie P. the Goddess mentioning London after midnight. We got a super
London
chat here from
after midnight. It ain't out on film.
No, it sure ain't. We got a super chat from Scott Temple. We're going to read that here in just a second. Carter Derdention is in the house, the man that requested all this good shit. And Dirk, the Subjective Perspective Collective. X-Ray Punch, Rob Scott. Movie Junkie John.
Yeah.
Ken Carlson. Carlos O'Reilly, man.
Mama fucking told me try to tell me how to live. Banana, banana,
Las locos kick your ass. Las locos kick your face. Wanna kick your balls into outer space. 4K Tent Revivals in here. Rob Zilla. L.A. Jewel. Scratch Bueno. Little Dumplings Books. Dark Light Entertainment. Born to be Rad is in the house. What's going on, sir? Evil Dead Chick is in the house. So she must have ended her stream. That was one person I was talking about. She streams every damn night, Uncle Bill. She's trying to take all the days.
She takes it to the limit. She rides along razor's edge. I'm telling you.
Anthony, what is up, sir? Texas HXCX 1955. Future Boy 77. Jason Byers. Official Jason Byers. Business of Fear. Mark Allen. Bronson Wright Wolf. Rambo Raff for life. He says, I come on here and I already have a Short Circuit 2 reference. Already a great show. All right. So we got a couple of super chats. We're going to get started. Scott Temple, and this is one that we're probably going to talk about here in a little bit. Christine Chubbuck's July 15th, 1974 on-air suicide has stuck with me since I first heard about it over 10 years ago. Such a sad tragedy. I recommend Christine from 2016 and Kate Plays Christine from 2016.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about that one in some detail because I found out a lot of information about that too.
Yeah, there's actually, and I was thinking about doing this, but it would probably age restrict their video immediately. There's audio of everything up to the gunshot. I think somebody like edited the gunshot in there. I don't think that that sounded kind of fake, but evidently that was really audio from the video. But I'm not going to play it. You can search for it. It is on YouTube if anybody wants to check it out. But Scott Temple, he actually sent this super chat in earlier today at like 3:25. I didn't know you could do that. So
yeah, you can leave it at any time in the comments. I've noticed that because Rambo gets like random super chats like in comments after he's done videos, which I always thought was killer.
And this shirt right here, celebrating Mars, Madman Mars, because this weekend, Uncle Bill, we got to put this over. Chiller Theater, for the very first time, Alexis Dubin and Madman Mars reunites at the Chiller Theater. And Paul told me this may be his last show. You know, he's getting up there. He's not really able to travel that much anymore. I think Chiller's like the only show that's like close, real close to where he lives. This may be the last chance to meet these two together. Possibly you, well, the first and last.
What a way to go out, though. I mean, like, she's been kind of like denying that movie for what, 40 years now, and now like she finally like decided that's the convention I would want to go out on too, is one where she actually like acknowledges the movie and they kind of
Yeah, she had filmed some footage for the 4K that came out last year. So there's like, I think, a little mini documentary with her that kind of explains a little bit why, you know, she was apprehensive about talking about the movie.
Because I rolled out in a hot tub. Shit.
If you want to know where the wind blows,
it's up to you.
Bronson Wright Wolf, what are your thoughts on Eddie Murphy being in a haunted, the movie A Haunted House?
The Haunted Mansion movie?
The Haunted Mansion?
Or are you talking about Eddie? Does he live in a fucking haunted house? Because that'd be killer.
Is that a gimmick for him, the haunted house?
I hope that's true. I hope he actually lives
trying to revive his career. Yeah. He's doing Eddie Murphy 24/7 live in the haunted house.
Yep.
I think Eddie Murphy is just glad that he's still making money in any form with, and he should be glad because he hasn't really made anything worth a shit in many years.
That's true. Although The Adventures of Pluto Nash was amazing.
That and Norbit, Holy Man.
Yeah.
Holy Man's a fucking classic. Hoping Vinegar Syndrome will do a 4K.
What was that other one he did too that was like space driven? It fucking bombed. Like, it's one of the worst bombs ever.
Pluto Nash.
No, not that one. There was another one. Somebody on here is bound to remember.
God, he did so many fucking pieces of shit. Honestly, though, like Norbit, I kind of liked it just because it's so fucking stupid. Like, it was one of those movies, like almost like Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star, where it's just so goddamn bad. Like,
I don't know. I don't know if I'd put that in there.
Hey, you do.
That movie, I can't get that movie out of my head. That's almost as bad as that fucking Freddy Got Fingered. Like, but Freddy Got Fingered is like not even a movie really, as much as it is just like Tom Green doing the most bizarre shit he can think of and getting paid for it.
Some Dead Pit fan better get something signed by both of them and send it to CK. Otherwise, you can't really call yourself a fan.
That's true.
He's calling y'all out. So this show tonight, we're going to continue to keep a watch on the chat, but you know, this chat's exploding tonight. It's going to be a fun show because a lot of this stuff we've never talked about. And this is a little bit of a departure from our normal shows, when you say, Uncle Bill, because we're strictly usually all horror. I mean, there's going to be some horror movies we're going to talk about in this list, but it's a little bit of everything: TV shows, wrestling, real life shit, you know?
Yeah. So we've never done anything like this, really. And I think it's a really great idea for a show topic, to be honest. So it's lost media in general. So lost footage, it could be movies, it could be TV shows, it could be, you know, anything broadcast live or even like, you know, related to horror films or anything else. Could be scenes that were taken out that have never been seen, but they exist and people know that they exist. So there's going to be a lot of different stuff to talk about. And I got a pretty broad array of stuff here. Like, I don't know how you want to break this down, if you want to break it down into categories or just do it. So it's like, because what I'm thinking is like, we could do movies, we could do TV shows, we could do live TV. It's like, however you want to break down what we talk about.
I think we should just go back and forth. Like, we can mix it up. Right? That's fun to do. Just go a little bit all over the place because there's some things that I've mentioned here that I'm clearly not a fan of, but it's interesting, you know, discussion. So I mean, we'll just go back and forth. No order really. We could talk about a wrestling one, then we could talk about real life or a horror movie or missing, audio or whatever. I've come up with some interesting shit to mix it up a little bit. Bronson Wright Wolf with another super chat, sir. Thank you so much.
This is a good question too.
This is a fun one. Go ahead with this one, Uncle, if you want to.
Bronson says, I've asked quite a few people this question, but if you guys listen to Ozzy, what is your favorite song of his to listen to at Halloween? I've got two right off the top of my head that I can think of. Hellraiser and Bark at the Moon.
Yeah, Bark of the Moon is one that kind of comes out pretty. The Ultimate Sin, the song The Ultimate Sin, the whole album actually, The Ultimate Sin would work.
Yeah.
You could count Black Sabbath with that too. I mean, fuck, Children of the Grave. Perfect.
Yeah, the original Black Sabbath might be one of the best just overall songs to listen to around Halloween ever.
I mean, there's the first 5 Sabbath albums. You can't beat it.
Well, you've got Black Sabbath, Masters of Reality, Volume 4, Sabotage,
Paranoid.
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Paranoid. All those are, every song on them is good, in my opinion.
Like, I think there's still a difference because we'll move on from this because most people don't give a fuck about this shit. But really, Paranoid and the first Black Sabbath album is one album. They recorded them all at the same time, I believe.
Yeah.
They had a distinct sound for those two albums that they couldn't get back. Like, that was a time capsule.
But I think that his best singing was on the later, like Sabotage. Like
his voice, he didn't find his real Aussie voice until later on, for sure.
Yeah.
And as far as late era Sabbath, Junior's Eyes, man, that's a fucking killer song. Like, that's one you need to look up if you don't remember that one. I think it's from the last Black Sabbath studio album. Another one from Bronson Wright Wolf. $10 super chat, dude. Woo. My favorite Ozzy Osbourne songs to listen to on Halloween: Bark the Moon, Crazy Train, Flying High Again. I haven't heard that one in a while. Mr. Crowley. Over the Mountain, Perry Mason, Suicide Solution, and Waiting for Darkness.
I was listening to Perry Mason. It was on Ozzy's Boneyard yesterday, I think. And I'm like, what the fuck made him do this song? Because it makes no sense in relationship to anything like that he's ever done. Like, the song's chorus is like, who can we get on the case? We need Perry. What the fuck? What? Who wrote that for him? He just sitting around watching TV and he was like, God damn, we got to do a song about Perry Mason, bulls.
You know what, though, man? That Osmosis album is underrated. I think Osmosis and Down to Earth are both fucking killer albums if you go back and listen to them now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree.
Anyway, Bronson Wright Wolf, that might be another show we do down the line. Ozzy's Boneyard is still around, man. That was one of the very first. What's it on? Sirius now? Sirius XM, they still call it. I don't know what they call it, but yeah, that was the very first gimmick station that I can recall back in.
There's a couple of stations. There's only a couple of stations on there worth of shit. You've got Ozzy's Boneyard, the hair metal station, and then you got Lithium, which is like 90s hard rock. So there's just a couple.
Ozzy has done a lot of drugs.
Yeah, he has.
That's for sure. Anthony says he still has his dad's original Paranoid LP from the 70s. That's really cool.
I've got a shit ton of dad's LPs over here. If we ever do a show on LPs, that's like they're original. They're sitting over here. But that's not what this show is about, so we're going to not do that right now.
We'll do that if you're a member of Patreon, if you're a baller and shot caller on there, you can request specific shows, which we were kind of hinting at this show for a while. And Carter was like, fuck y'all, you're going to go ahead and do it.
Yep.
So this is Lost Media. We're going to go ahead and get started. Probably the holy grail of Lost Media, Uncle Bill, is about a subject that we don't give a single solitary fuck about. Savannah might like these shows. I'm not sure. Doctor Who episodes.
Oh, God. Yeah, I saw this when I was looking this stuff up, and I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about none of this.
Well, it's an interesting time, though, and we'll probably go back to this same sort of thing because TV shows back then. No, I mean, this was a British show in the 60s, the early 60s. They would record over tapes all the time, you know, for these shows because even back then they really didn't have reruns back then.
Yeah. There's another example of something very similar to that with Dark Shadows where they did like an episode, and I can't remember the name of the episode now. Somebody can look this up, but it never aired again until recently. They found it and like redid it and put it on one of those box sets. But it aired one time and then somebody just like lost it. Like that's kind of how it went. Yeah. With live TV shows at that time.
I've watched a couple of episodes of modern Doctor Who, and I'm just flabbergasted. I don't know what to make of it. But these are the original. It's 97 episodes of the original BBC show that are lost, probably never to be recovered again. Now, these were in the 60s, so if you don't have the master tapes of those, you're kind of fucked because nobody had a VCR or anything to record them back then. I know that the BBC had like a public campaign and found a lot of episodes somewhere. I don't know if TV stations had a way of recording them then or how that works. But the remaining episodes, 97 of them, it's highly unlikely that the current lost episodes will ever be seen again.
That's probably a good thing. Be honest. Like, goddamn. All right. So let's mix it up a little bit. I had no knowledge of this till I went in like a rabbit hole searching for this shit. Mm-hmm. But for those of you familiar with Cannibal Holocaust, there's a lot of horrible stuff in Cannibal Holocaust already. But one thing that didn't make the cut, but apparently it's rumored to exist, is there is a scene in Cannibal Holocaust it's called the piranha scene, where in the movie they're two different tribes and shit like that, and they're fighting back and forth and stuff, and they will kill like members of one another's tribes. Well, one of the scenes is, this is the rumored lost scene, is that they dip one of the other tribe members' legs down in piranha infested water, and they're kind of eaten off. And that scene was rumored to exist, but then I think either Diodato or somebody said it didn't exist. But then here recently, not too long ago,
there's photos that popped up of it.
Exactly. And an extra said that they actually filmed the scene, and there's still pictures of it that you can look up online to this day that exist. So this scene probably does exist. It's just there's no known footage.
Or did exist at one time.
Or did exist at one time, yeah.
On the bootleg Cannibal Holocaust DVD that I got back that was one of the bonus features. They had photos of the long lost piranha scene.
Yeah.
And I remember back in the early days of, some of the forums and the internet and stuff like that was one that people reference quite a bit, the Cannibal Holocaust piranha scene for sure. So that's a good one, Uncle Bill. So,
Splatter Farm, or F-Base, Splatter Farm was actually put out on DVD. I've actually got Splatter Farm. That was put out by Camp Motion Pictures back in the mid 2000s.
Do you want to, since we're talking about Italian horror, let's continue on with this, because this is one that's not brought up that often. And it is the original ending, Fulci's City of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd talk about this one.
We all remember the ending they gave us. Like it was Carlo DeMio and Catriona McCall looking shocked at something that we never really get to see. Well, we do. It's the little boy or whatever. And then they do the little gimmick where, the screen cracks like glass or something like that. And that's the end. And we're like,
right.
What the fuck? So, rumor is there was a fire or something at the lab, a chemical fire or something that destroyed that footage. Nobody knows. And I remember I think we asked Catriona McCall when we interviewed her back in the day about it. Nobody recalls what the ending was or what that scene was that was destroyed. But that's been the rumor for years and years and years, that wasn't the intended ending for City of the Living Dead. And it's a shitty ending too.
It is. I kind of believe that too.
Movie.
I mean, it's because it's so abrupt and it doesn't make any sense the way that they did it. I kind of believe they had another ending and they just, I'm betting Fulci was just like, fuck these. Let's get this over with. And he just like, he just struck me as a guy that probably just got mad about stuff like that and just fucking tacked on whatever to meet the budget or not go over time.
Yeah. So something like that, man, like I'm almost positive that, it was either destroyed in the fire or it's gone by now. That's been like 43, 44 years ago. So odds on us ever finding out what the hell that was, we'll probably never see that. We did have a question up here though. That was an interesting one. Let's see if I can find it. This chat's going nuts. We have 95 people in here. Appreciate you guys coming in. Someone was asking, I can't get the name, the Dead Pit Lost Media. I can't find the question. Is there anything that we have got or that we had or that exists somewhere? Right here, Jackson Jack. I got it. Is there any Dead Pit Lost Media? I know there's at least one interview. Are you guys saving Dead Pit Lost Media for the end? Dude, I wish we were, because there's some really good shit that exists and that I've been assured has been found, but we have never received it. It's never come into our grasp. And you want to talk about what that is? Because it was recorded.
Are you talking about the Lost Fright Night interviews?
Yeah. Well, one in particular. There's one in particular.
So this was back, what was this, 2007 that we did this, or
2006? It was the very first Fright Night show.
Okay. So we had like media access at this show, and we'd done a bunch of like sit down interviews with a lot of the people that were the stars, the celebrities for that show. And then at the end of it, I remember you asking the promoter, you were like, can we get those interviews? Because like we would put them up, on YouTube, make them, available so people would watch them or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I get around to it. And we never got those in for like.
No, it was recorded through their cameraman.
Yeah, there's an actual camera guy there. That's the other part of it. Yeah.
Well, most of the other interviews I don't care about. I'm not going to mention those, but this would be the only time we ever interviewed Gunnar Hansen.
Right.
On at that show. And that would be cool to have, as like more than anything else, is just to say, hey, we got it. Here's the interview. And it's never been seen. Nobody has ever seen it. Other than Ken Daniels, who has it right now. So if you really want to aggravate Ken Daniels,
he probably doesn't have it, to be honest.
Well, he said he knows where it's at. It was but we'll see. Other stuff, there's some lost MWO episodes from back in the day that was posted only on the old Facebook page. Unless somebody has those, there's a gap there of about 4 or 5 months that we don't have of the old midweek show. And another one that came to mind, Jackson Jack, is the Lost on the Road episode, Uncle Bill, or the first half of it. You want to talk about that?
Are you talking about the X-Files one that we just put up?
No, I'm talking about the one that we never got to put up because.
Oh, you're talking about yeah. So in what was probably the worst theatrical experience that we ever had, I would say. Down at the Strand Theater, which, by the way, just to speak to this for a second, the Strand Theater, if anybody's seen any of our old videos of going to the Strand Theater, putting on like driving past it even, or putting on the screenings that we put on there, it was once a glorious place. That fucking place is falling apart. Literally, the marquee sign of the Strand is falling apart to the point now where they've got like jacks up,
They've
like
got
holding
braces
up.
holding it up, 2x4s, and
It's like that place is going to fall
sad.
in, and they've never done shit with it. But anyway,
the sad thing is about that is though is they're wanting probably 4 times the amount that thing is worth, right? And if somebody bought it, you would have to put another $100,000 into it to
just to
get it
remodel
structurally, structurally sound, get new projectors and everything in it. Fuck, at this point, just fucking donate it to the city, man.
I would tear it down, like it. I mean, and rebuild something there, because it's a damn hazard. Somebody's gonna get killed walking underneath that marquee.
Well, they could probably save the marquee and just tear the building down and build it back. I don't know.
It's untelling what'll be in there. You probably find fucking Jimmy Hoff in there or something like.
You find our alligator 35mm print in there. I never did get that back either.
Okay, so we were there anyway. We were watching My Soul to Take. That was the goddamn movie we were watching, I'm pretty sure. And the crappy Wes Craven one. And while we were there, like we left the car parked out. I don't remember. I swear to God, I don't remember leaving it unlocked. It's possible. Anything's possible. But I was pretty sure that I locked it. Regardless, a bunch of people, or maybe 1 or 2 people, stole all of the shit out of the vehicle that was worth anything, including the camera that had
which was brand new
on the road, beginning of On the Road for that movie on.
It's probably less than 5 minutes worth of footage, but still, they cost the by stealing that, they cost the fans an episode of Dead Pit on the Road, because that's
it'd have been a good one too, because that movie was awful.
Yeah. Rambo is asking about the Friday the 13th Part 5 commentary we did for Paramount that was never used. Well, that's available on our Patreon page, right? And the interesting thing about it is I was listening to some of this stuff when I put it up. Felcher worked really hard on that. I mean, this was back in the day when he actually gave a shit about us. And
it's been a while,
he interspliced some of the interviews that we did with people from Part 5 into the commentary. So it's pretty neat.
I just find it impossible to believe that these companies don't use a lot of these interviews for a lot of these movies where people have either passed away or like that they, didn't do that many interviews, and we've got like hundreds of them. It just, I don't know.
Pound that bell notification. We've got 99 people in here. All right. So let's continue on.
All right. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention this one. There's a rumor that somewhere there exists the Friday the 13th Part 3 scene of the decapitation of the lead character, I forget her name. I should know that, but
Dana
Kimmel. So there's still photos of this that exist, and you can see like what they did. It's also in the Crystal Lake Memories book. It's in pretty much any website you can go on. So one of the proposed endings of the film is I guess is she having a dream that he kills her and then like decapitates her, and he's holding her head and all this stuff. And then she wakes up, and then yada, 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 kind of the same thing as what happens at the end of the actual movie after that. But that scene has lived in infamy for a long time. People wanted to see it, but yeah, along with Part 7, there's apparently no footage of that. Or if there is footage, they don't know where it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's raw footage of a few of them, like Part 6, 7, and 8. Somebody put some of those together online. 7 is the one that was very heavily, like the gore scenes were very heavily cut down time lengthwise and everything. So
they look awful too, by the way. Like if you try to watch it online or anything like that, like you can't barely even see anything that's going on for that. There's some Part 7 stuff online that looks horrible.
Yeah, 99 people. We got 100 people now, and only 13 thumbs up. Bulls, what's wrong with you? Give us a thumbs up. Oh. Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about part 7, though, man. Because that footage is out there, but it's in really, really crappy quality.
TJ does bring up a good point about part 3. There's also the Voorhees, Mrs. Voorhees opening her eyes at the end that never got. That did get filmed. I know that it got filmed, but it doesn't exist on anything that anybody knows about. But anyway, part 7.
Staying of the Scorpion 78 on Twitch, bulls. We appreciate all of our Twitch followers, all 14 of them.
But I don't understand Twitch, so I don't care.
I don't either, but thank you for coming by, Sting. Friday the 13th, part 7, the uncut 35 millimeter footage. Now, John Carl Beekler was the director of part 7. He's also a makeup effects guy. He's the reason that Jason looks so cool in part 7. So, of course, he's going to make sure that it was as gory as possible, right? And it was. We'll talk about this here in a minute. Some of the stuff that's out there, and you could look on YouTube and see, holy shit.
Yeah. It was amazing, man.
Seeing that in high def, good quality. But unfortunately, according to online sources, it will never be released in its uncensored glory. Beginning in 1980, the summer camp slasher Friday the 13th, everything blew up. This was towards the end of the run, and what was it, 88, I think? 87, 88, part 7. The only known footage that survived, and you can see it on YouTube if anybody's interested, is from a grainy VHS transfer, which does give you an idea on how fucking killer that uncut version would be. Extended deaths pretty much is all of it.
It's all it is.
Yeah. So extremely gruesome gore sequences and stuff. Paramount is said to have destroyed the unused footage back in the 1990s. As a result, a restored full-blooded cut of Friday the 13th, part 7, The New Blood, is doubtful, even more so now that John Carl Beekler has passed away. So that's something that I don't.
Does it exist? I'll bet it does.
I think it still exists.
I do too.
And I'll tell you why. Because I was talking to somebody in the know about Paramount. Paramount is one of the worst studios for organization. So I think they put that out there that the footage was destroyed in the 90s because they don't know where the fuck it's at and they want people to quit asking about it.
That's exactly what they did. Yep.
At some point in time, we may see it. We may not. Who's to say? Let's ask.
If they ever get serious about that series, which they never have in the past, I don't know why they would now. Then you see it, but I just don't look for them to do that. Really.
Well, you can hire some. What do they have? What do they call them? The practicum students or whatever it is. Whatever
interns.
Interns.
Students.
But you're not paying them a fucking thing, and just have them go through labels, film, and be like, "Find this shit. You got all summer." Dumbass. But Friday the 13th, part 7. I still think there's hope.
I do too. Have you ever watched that shit though? Because it's amazing, especially the scene. You can look back on some of the scenes, the way they were filmed that ended up in the actual movie, and then look at the way that they were supposed to be filmed, especially the head crushing scene, which is it's like Hatchet almost in terms of the level of gore that's in it.
There's the scene too, the sleeping bag scene, which I think in the R-rated cut, it's just like 1 or 2 smacks, right? But in the unrated cut, he smacks the fuck out of I don't know, a dozen times. And then the last cut, it's like the girl's head explodes.
That's right.
So That's some good shit. So maybe someday. I've held out some hope for that one.
So what else you got? We
Um,
can keep to the horror movie theme if you want. I got a couple more just horror
let's
film
switch it up.
related. Okay.
Let's switch it up because I actually have a few more horror ones, but I want to do a wrestling one because I've got a couple of wrestling ones.
Oh God. Okay.
So I've got some. That's not really footage, but it explains what the footage is. This is one of her more popular recent little like real videos. And no word has gotten out if there's footage of this, if there's photos of this. But I want to go ahead and play this. This is from like 3 years ago, a little clip from one of the old shows of us talking about exactly what this is. You ready for it, Uncle Bill?
I'm ready.
It's a funny story. I think Bam Bam Bigelow talked about it on a shoot interview. Have you guys know what I'm talking about yet?
No.
This is bad. I don't know if there's video footage of this, but in Mexico, Andre, and this was like probably late 91, early 92 when they were wrestling. Bam Bam Bigelow. What was that?
How the hell could he have worked after that? I mean, he couldn't walk, so...
I have no clue, man. I really don't. Like, I don't know if there are any footage of him wrestling from this time period or what the hell he was doing other than maybe leaning on the ropes. But it was a tag team match. I think Bam Bam, I'm not sure which team he was on, but he was tagged out during this time. Andre was in the ring with Bad News Brown, and he had a night of like, the evening before, drinking like some ungodly like 15, 18 margaritas or something like that. And he did, the ass bump where he pulls himself up.
Yeah.
And shit diarrhea all over Bad News Brown. Oh man, I would love to see foot, because he said it was almost like a fire hose of shit. All over the ring, all over, going in Bad News' mouth and everything, man. I mean, could you imagine that? A giant shit and diarrhea all over you.
It's like that Spirit Squad DX segment with a shit on them.
Yeah, but directly out of. So there you go.
What's weird about that is you put that up on YouTube, it's got like 20,000 hits or something like that.
I think it's like 30. Picture.
Yeah.
I think it's like 30. Man, it's weird too, because I'm listening to all these old shows, and Garrett mentions this, that I wasn't feeling good that night. Like, I was sick all the time then. Like, I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, you could tell I had the cold or something there. But
yeah, I've got that shit now, so.
Yeah, but I think that there've got to be photos or something there. There has to be something of that, but it's never come out.
So I think that, we got to talk about then the most famous lost footage in wrestling history has to be, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't know who would want to see this. I'm sure there are some people who want to see this, but of course the Owen Hart footage. It exists. It exists. Like, because for a couple different reasons, I'm positive that it exists. Number one being, it's probable that there was a camera on that ring, and it's probable that it picked that up. And from what I understand,
there's the hard camera that's always running too, right in the center there.
So apparently there was a rumor that it was locked in a vault with a note that said basically like, do not ever view this.
There's 2 tapes, and we'll probably talk about the other one here in a little bit, that have instructions: do not duplicate, do not watch, do not destroy. So the Owen Hart thing, man, you and I were together when this happened. We were watching the pay-per-view. It was Over the Edge in 1999. It was in Kansas City, the Kemper Arena. Like May the 23rd, 1999. See if that date's right. Because I was traumatized by that shit. I mean, I remember I remember that. And when I saw Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross's face when they made the announcement that he passed away, I knew what they were going to say before. The look on their face told me what happened to him, man. And just I would not watch that. That's something that voluntarily I would never want to see. And it should remain lost. It's not really lost, but it's never going to be seen publicly.
And the part of it too, was just like there's a lot of people that have eyewitness accounts of what happened with that too. So it's not like it's unknown about what happened. And it just sounds so horrific that I don't know why the hell you would want to watch that anyway. But
basically, like from what I've heard, and I've watched a lot on this and stories about that night and everything. Jimmy Corderas was the referee.
Yeah.
And he told the story about Owen as he was falling at probably 90 miles an hour or whatever it was yelling for him to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right. Move, get out of the way. Or else it would have been 2 people dead that night. So
no, that's the thing, Rob, about that pay-per-view. Like watching it live, you didn't see anything. Like the camera was on a promo that the Blue Blazer was doing when that fall happened. So you were just watching like a promo. Now, had that happened like 2 minutes earlier, yeah, you probably would have seen it. But it just so happened that they were running a promo on the Titantron at that point in time, and it happened. And then they come back, and they've got the cameras on the crowd, and then on like Lawler and JR. So like they had already realized.
And Rob used to be a big wrestling guy, but I don't know if he, the way they set those cameras up, you got the hard camera that's facing the ring. That's kind of like the wide shot. That's the one that picked everything up, I'm pretty sure. So, that angle is probably the tape, I'm willing to bet. So what had happened is he had fell from the very top, close to the very top of that arena. I don't know how many hundreds of feet it was, and landed right on the turnbuckle. Like I think it was almost face first in the turnbuckle or chest first in the turnbuckle, and broke his back. He had internal bleeding. He died pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
So bad stuff, man.
I think the greatest quote that I ever heard about that situation, because they finished the show, right? And Bret Hart, in one interview that he did not too long ago, he said, somebody asked him about them finishing the show, and he said, "Let me ask you a question." He said, "Do you think that if Shane fell from the top of that, landed in the ring, and died, that they would have finished the show?" And I think that says everything that needs to be said.
For those that's not wrestling fans, think of it this way. His blood was stained on the mat that night. So could you imagine the next set of wrestlers coming out there, which I think Jeff Jarrett was one of them, who was close friends with him, to go out there and know what had just happened. They didn't know he passed away, but they knew it was bad. They knew it was really bad. And you see his blood, almost like a murder scene, and there you are wrestling right there where that guy died. Or, I mean, even at that point, you're probably like, oh man, he's probably not going to make it, So
John Billy has a really serious question he wants you to answer though here.
What is it?
Just check it out real quick.
I'm up at the top. I was going to do a super chat, and you want to do his next?
Oh, yeah, I'll just go ahead and answer.
Before I forget about Bronson's super chat. Dark
John
Water 2005. Let's do this one real quick because I have no memory of Dark Water 2005. I think it's the one with Jennifer Connelly in it, right?
Is that the one with Jennifer Connelly? I'm not sure.
I think so. Jennifer Connelly's a damn good-looking woman. I'll say that. I've seen the movie, but I really don't remember it. What about you?
I'm not positive I've ever seen it. But anyway, back to John Billy. I recommend that you take your washcloth. You know the rest.
Put you a lot of soap on it.
Yeah. Wash that some bitch up. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, that was a bad night, man. Continuing on. All right, let's talk about this one. Y'all remember Columbine, don't you?
Unfortunately.
Like, I think that was at the time, this was the same year as the Owen Hart thing, 1999. This was like one of the most highly publicized school shootings at the time, wouldn't you say?
Well, it was, to me, like it wasn't the first school shooting. I think one of the first school shootings happened in Paducah, Kentucky, by the way. But like on a level like that, it was the one that really was like the most notorious. And to me, it was the one that like started all this fucking copycat bullshit that we still have today.
Yeah. So this was crazy. I mean, the news sites were going ape shit over this story. And December that year, Time Magazine had a issue on the basement tapes. Do you remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
So one of their reporters, Tim Roche, or Roche, he may be French, was given access to 5 videotapes recorded by the murderers that investigators had discovered, outlining their motives and reciting a kill list of sorts, among other things. There was an article published on it. There's transcripts of it, but the footage itself was never put out. I think there may be photo stills of it that's out there. In 2015, word surfaced that the unreleased tapes had been approved for destruction. That sounds like a killer name for a metal album, by the way.
Approved for destruction. That is,
by Sheriff Ted Mink of Jefferson County, Colorado, way back in 2011. So we're probably never going to see the basement tapes, but what are your thoughts on the whole Columbine thing? And then this was the first one too, where the killers were almost, I don't want to say they were glorified, but they were definitely, the news people were definitely going crazy about these tapes, and they were, the trench coat mafia and all that stuff at the time.
Yeah, it became like a weird cult kind of. I don't want to say people idolized them, but they had like a following of people, unfortunately, that like were really in it. And you can look back at some of the shootings and stuff that have happened over the years, and people have actually said, they were inspired by Columbine, some of the school shootings that happened after it. So it's unfortunately done a lot. But that the lost footage too that you're talking about as well, it's got them going through like, laundry list of what they're going to do and things like that. It's also just got them like talking to like classmates and things like that, which is really bizarre. Like that they're supposedly in the school, like talking to classmates and shit of like people that they're going to eventually end up murdering. Just a lot of really.
Ryan Jacobson says that you can still play Eric Harris's custom Doom levels. Well, so that was a big thing then too.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like,
now listen, this one right here has always fucking traumatized me, man, if I'm being honest. So the Leonard Lake and Charles, I can never forget how to pronounce his name. He's a Chinese guy. Tapes. So these were two serial killers. There's actually some footage available. I recommend highly that you never watch it. Like,
is it where he eats him or something?
No. These guys, these guys were serial killers who kidnapped women, and then they would videotape them talking to them before they killed them. So there's like footage that you can readily watch online of them like talking to these women and just being like, basically like, you're going to do whatever we want. You're going to end up dying. We don't care what happens to you. Yada, 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 yada. Now, that's the footage that was released. That there's actually, so supposedly there's actual like snuff footage of like what happens after that as well. But those two fuckheads, like just watching that stuff, just make you incredibly angry.
Did you ever see the movie? I saw this back when it came out, 0 Day, that's kind of loosely based on Columbine. It's like a shot on video, like, I don't know if it's a remake, but it's very similar to what happened at Columbine. It's actually very well done. Yeah. Yeah, I must be thinking of the German Cannibal.
Yeah, there really was. Like, that's a whole other story for another day too.
Let's lighten things up a little bit. Let's find one that's a little bit more fun.
Right. Hold on, I'll see if I can find something here.
I got a brief one because there's really nothing out there about this. And I don't know if you even know this. Another wrestling one. It is the Bret Hart Hulk Hogan SummerSlam 93 photo shoot. The tug of war photo shoot.
Oh, wow.
So these photos exist. We have been confirmed that they're out there. Hulk Hogan won at WrestleMania 9 after Bret Hart lost to Yokozuna. Bret Hart won the King of the Ring and was originally supposed to wrestle Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam. But there was some sort of contract disputes and everything else shortly after these photos were taken, and Hulk Hogan lost to Yokozuna at King of the Ring, leading to ultimately Lex Luger versus Yokozuna at SummerSlam. These photos do exist, though, but they have never seen the light of day. Who knows, if WWE even knows where they're at. But very much like some of the promo stuff that they did back in the early 90s, I think this would be a fun one to track down if somebody could find it.
Speaking of that too, speaking of wrestling, wasn't there a match? And I'm trying to remember this story, but it's like the fucking COVID's messing with my brain, I guess. Wasn't there a match?
Uncle Bill's got COVID for the 7th or 8th time. How many
yeah, it's fine at this point. It's like fucking whatever.
We don't care about COVID here in Eastern Kentucky.
So there was a match that was like where the tag team titles changed hands, but it was never televised, and they never changed the titles. What was that match?
That was released eventually, though. That was the Rockers. Well, that's when the Rockers won the tag titles, which they never officially won the tag titles against the Hart Foundation. So the reason is, and that I think this was originally a match that was going to be on Primetime Wrestling or something like that.
The ring ropes broke, didn't they? Wasn't that like
the ropes broke. So Vince was like, scrap it, God damn it.
He probably said it just like that too. I got one here though. I got one, and this one
another light one. Another light.
It's a light one. We're going light. Yeah, I stumbled upon this one because it was so fucking hilarious that I had to. So in 1967, there was a Filipino film made called Batman Fights Dracula. Now, the reason why that this doesn't exist now is because it was a parody film made without the permission of DC Comics. So they made it, and I don't think it ever got screened before they got sued, and it has never seen the light of day. They had no permission to film anything to do with like the Batman character or anything like that. And somewhere that film exists, but nobody knows anything about it.
Well, you reminded me of the Fantastic Four movie from like the 90s that never officially came out too. But I think that was like wasn't that a copyright thing? So the studio could hang on to the movie or something. You remember that?
You're talking about the Roger Corman one?
Yeah, Roger Corman.
That one does exist, doesn't it?
It was never officially released, I don't think. I mean, it may be out there, bootlegs of it, but it was never released by any studio unless
I remember, unfortunately, like seeing parts of that, but yeah.
It's really, really bad.
Yeah,
I tried to watch it. It's really bad. Maybe Rob, because he's big into the comic book stuff, he may know. He's in here. I don't think it ever came out. So, and there's another one too. There's photos of, I think there's a documentary they're working on, the Tim Burton Superman movie that never got officially. I don't think it got started, but
was that
Nicolas
the one with Nick Cage? Yeah, was supposed to.
And there's a photo of him out there as Superman in the costume and everything. So, but one of the big ones for me, because I think this is an interesting one. I know Uncle Bill remembers this too, because this all started back in the late 90s. And this is one of those early, it's really like a fan film that never ever come out still to this day. It is now known as the Lost Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Do you remember this, Uncle Bill?
All American Massacre?
All American Massacre.
Yes.
Directed by Tobe Hooper's son, Tony, and starring Bill Moseley reprising his role of Chop Top. Here's the thing. That website was out forever. It was around for hell and ever. And there's a trailer for it. And I've actually got the trailer ready. You guys want to check it out? It's the quality on it's really, really bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's flash video from like 2000. All right. Here you go, boys. All American Massacre coming in October of 2000. Oh, curly jaws, boys.
Shit. That looked like shit dipped in shit. God.
I think some people are blown away by it, though. Look, 1983 Magic's like, holy fuck.
They're blown away for the wrong reasons. That footage exists. That still exists out there.
There is a documentary on it in Search of All American Massacre, which in cases like this, the legend behind the movie we know is going to be better than actually watching the movie. But the funny thing is in this, Buckethead, the guitar player, the crazy fucking, he played Leatherface in this. He was Leatherface in this movie. There's not a whole lot of footage of that came out. I think there's some photos.
So my go ahead, sorry.
Well, I mean, Tobe Hooper was on set for this as well, which is interesting. Bill Moseley was in this. They also have a prequel section in this with another guy playing a younger Chop Top. So it's something that I would want to watch, but I'm sure it's bad. I'm sure it's freaking terrible.
Positive. Real quick before we get to that, though, I just want to bring up this super chat because it's important. Huge Uncle Bill Mark here, ready for the next rant. I'm ready to give it to you, sir. Thank you for the super chat. Anyway,
I think there was another super chat we missed from our buddy Bronson again. Thank you, sir.
Oh, shit.
If Vanilla Ice made a horror movie, it should call it Slice Slice Baby. That's a good one.
That could be his own Vanilla Ice slasher.
Directed. Hey, Fred Durst, buddy, he fucking made movies, so why couldn't Vanilla Ice? But yeah, All American Massacre, man, like it was fan funded. I think they tried to start a GoFundMe probably 12, 13 years ago. It was one that Tony Hooper has been working on off and on for fucking it's 23 years later, and it's still not out. So I mean, odds are we're probably never going to see this movie. I think it was shot on video too. That's why it looks damn bad.
I hope we never see it. It looks like it really looks like it would be something you would watch and just complain about for the next 10 years.
The documentary on Tubi, though, I would recommend. It's interesting. For some reason, they say that the cast, aside from one dude, the guy that played Grandpa in it, didn't want to talk about it at all. So that should tell you something.
That's true. Uncle Rad, that time period is over, but you should definitely get ready for the rise of Raz.
I don't know, man. Raz will get over like a fart in church.
I'm going to get Raz over. I'm going to be like the Dusty Polka Dots and get him over. You wait.
Yeah. So that's All American Massacre, boss.
So here's one. This is not a light one. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, but this is not as bad as like some of the other like serious stuff that we've been talking about. So everybody knows the story of this, but I hadn't really thought about like what happened afterwards with this until I started looking some of this stuff up. So the Crow, the shooting, of course, of Brandon Lee, accidental shooting.
Was there footage of that?
Well, here's the thing. Allegedly, the death was caught on camera, and it was allegedly destroyed by the director at the insistence of the director. That's what I read. Now, who knows how much of this shit is true? However, apparently, like a couple of the other cameramen, the second unit directors and cameramen on there, have claimed that they own a copy of the footage. It's never been released. It's never been seen. So those claims were probably false. Because if it had been, man, somebody would probably offer like millions of dollars for that, and it would probably like there's no way that one of these guys wouldn't sell it.
Yeah, unless they would get the shit suit out of them.
Which is also a possibility, yeah. That's right, Carter, the human suplex machine, Raz.
Well, also more recently, the independent movie Rust, where Alec Baldwin killed the cinematographer. I'm pretty sure that all was filmed. That was when filming was. She was actually the one filming it. So,
TJ, the Twilight Zone movie accident footage does exist, and I've unfortunately seen that too, and you don't need to see that either.
That's on YouTube if you want to see it. It's out there. It's not missing at all. The Owen Hart death footage 100% still exists.
Yeah.
It's at WWE Vault headquarters, wherever it's at now. Steve Irwin footage, boys. We got a request for it.
So, yeah, I thought about this one too, and I ran across this. That's just one of the saddest things ever, though, man. Like the way that happened.
You remember when you first heard about this? It kind of goes full circle.
I don't remember when I first heard about it, actually.
We were at the first Friday Night Film Fest the day we were coming back home, and we'd heard about it it was on the news that morning that he had been killed by Stingray in Queensland, Australia, or wherever the hell it was at. And we were kind of down the entire day because at that point in time, I mean, I think we were both pretty big fans of that show. Like, I loved that show, like all the way back in the 90s when it was on, and he was just such a likable guy. And it was just interesting. You know, it's entertaining. He's a likable dude. It was a fun show, informative for people. And man, I think we all deep down inside knew someday something was going to happen. It just eventually it had to happen. But what were the odds on him being stung or stabbed or whatever by a stingray through the heart, essentially stopping his heart and bleeding out and dying that way? Just totally random.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I know there's probably footage of that exists, or footage of the aftermath at least that exists. because he filmed everything that he ever did like that. So
it exists, and I think it was given to the family, but it's probably been destroyed. I would imagine if that had happened to me, my dad died that way, and it was on camera. Why wouldn't you want to watch it? Why?
To me, that's like if Mr. Rogers fucking died and you had a video of him dying. Like, would you want to like go back and watch that shit? No.
No.
Somebody Nathan brings up a good one here. There is no video footage of this. Somebody else mentioned this too. There's only audio footage, and you can watch. There's a video of I think it's Warner Hertz of like listening to it, and he's like, there's audio of it, and he listens to it, and then he's talking to somebody. If it's his girlfriend, I can't remember who it is. Somebody in the family.
They both got eaten.
Did they? Okay. Well, it's somebody in the family or something like that, and he's basically like,
maybe his sister or something. Possibly.
Yeah, he's like, don't ever listen to this. He's like, he basically says that
the audio's on YouTube. I've listened to it. It's I don't know why I listened to it. I got caught up in that documentary, and somebody was trying to say that audio is fake. If that audio is fake, it's the best fake audio that I've ever heard. It sounded exactly like him. And I think it's dead on. I think that was that's legit. I don't know if it's still on there, but I think that was the death audio. I mean, that it somehow got out.
Yeah.
But we have 117 people in here, Uncle Bill.
I expect more. I don't settle. I don't settle for things like this. I think we should have more.
No, we're definitely going to get more this coming Wednesday, May the 3rd, because Don May Jr., the Synapse Films guru himself, is returning Dead Pit. Michael Felcher's going to join him. We're going to roast the hell out of Michael Felcher that night. It's going to be so much fun. So, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe and get notifications and shit sent to you so you won't miss any of this shit. It's going to be fun.
So, are you ready to talk about like one of the most, if not the most infamous lost media?
Go for it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people know about this, and a lot of people don't know about this. But probably the most infamous lost media footage of all time is Christine Chubbuck. Now, Christine Chubbuck was a news personality at WXLT, which was a local broadcasting entity. And she had dealt with a long history of depression, a long history of mental illness. And it was well known to a lot of people afterwards who they talked to that she had been dealing with this too. And she also had and a lot of people still have this to this day, a real hatred for the way that the news kind of glorifies violence and tragedy and things like that. And so on one particular broadcast, she reads several news stories. I think it's 3 just news stories, just like she's reading, any other time. And then there's a news story that comes up and something happens with the video footage where it doesn't work. It's a news story about something to do with violence or something like that.
Mm.
And she stops and she's just kind of shrugs. This is apparently like from what I can gather from doing this research. She stops, she kind of shrugs, and she says the following. I've got this in quotes. In keeping with the WXLT practice of presenting the most immediate and complete reports of local blood and guts news, TV 40 presents what is believed to be a television first, in living color, exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide. She then pulls a revolver from her purse, which she brought in, very similar to the way that Bud Dwyer did with a manila envelope, puts it to the back of her ear here, pulls the trigger, and then falls forward onto the desk. There is apparently audio of this that's real, but there's been a a bunch of fake shit that's been going around on the on YouTube that's supposed to be the video of it. That's not the actual fucking video of it. They disproved all of the YouTube videos about this have been disproved. It said that they.
It makes you wonder how the audio got out, though.
I don't know. But that apparently they ran that by the station manager to confirm that was the real audio, and it is the real audio. But the video footage has all been fake.
So this was 1974. How many people was there Betamax tapes out then? Or I don't think so. I think
that's the problem. That's what they were talking about in a lot of this, is that so they had VCRs, but back then they were so limited and they were so expensive that almost nobody had any of them. So that's why it's so hard to find any kind of like footage of this, because
it's very unusual even then, though, because like now if you put anything online for 10 seconds, it's out there and it could be ripped and saved immediately live as it's happening. But back then, I mean, you would think that other news stations would latch on to this and want to at least play up to a point before she shot herself. But there's none of that. I mean, this was 1974. Sensationalized news broadcasts and stuff maybe weren't as popular as they are now. No. But yeah, it's very disturbing even to listen to.
There's also like a backstory behind this that I always thought was crazy too. So there is video footage of this that exists, but it was given to the family, and I can't remember who got it. Like it said like which family member got it, but in more recent years, I guess this may have been, 15, 20 years ago when this story became more popular. Mm-hmm. This person got so many requests for that tape that they just got fed up and locked it up in a vault that's owned by, I think, their lawyer. So, and with the instruction that it's never to be like opened, it's never to be seen, anything like that. So you will never see that unless somewhere out there somebody somehow taped that from a VCR from 1974, like, which is, you got to be thinking, who's going to be fucking taping the news on a VCR on a local station in 1974?
Well, you got to think too, this is coming up on 50 years. That's how long ago that happened. So the odds on the person even still being around that recorded it back then it's getting shorter and shorter as the years are going on, man. It really is. So you want to lighten things up a little bit, though, Uncle Bill. We talk about everybody killing themselves and everything. Fuck. I want to talk about something that I bet you don't even know about this.
Uh-oh.
So, do you remember Radio WWF back in the early 90s?
No, but I read about this when I was looking this other shit up. I don't have any recollection of this whatsoever.
I remember them promoting it on TV briefly, and you can see it on a couple of old pay-per-views. It was a syndicated professional wrestling show, probably the first of its kind, especially by, a nationwide or worldwide wrestling company. But it was produced by WWF and provided commentary for the pay-per-views live on syndicated, FM stations or AM stations or wherever. And it also discussed the wrestling industry as a whole. It's hosted by Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon. I don't know how many shows. I don't know if it has on here how many shows there were, but they did like Royal Rumble, SummerSlam 93, WrestleMania 10, Royal Rumble 94. And for the very first time recently, one of the episodes surfaced because multimillionaire Conrad Thompson put a bounty out on it. Like, he's like, does anybody have a cassette of any of the old radio WWF shows? If so, let me know and I'll line your pockets, boys. So it was the 94 the 94 Royal Rumble show. It's on YouTube, but the rest of the shows have never seen the light of day, or, well, you listen to them, but how would they even do this? now? I mean, could they have them on the network playing, or how would they even put these out?
I don't know. And I was trying to figure that out too when I was reading about this. I'm just amazed that anything from WWF is lost. Like considering
in the
how much
in the late 90s, they brought the show back as well. I think Michael Cole was part of the revamped show on here. So it was kind of around off and on throughout most of the 90s. But I think it was very like syndication was not very good on the radio station. So that was the reason probably not a whole lot of them around.
What a horrible idea, though. If you think about it, like that's
well,
right up there with the XFL.
For little kids and stuff, though, if they could actually find the station, you didn't want to buy the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good deal. It's free, you know. Carter Denton.
We were trying to lighten it up, fucking Carter. That's the point right now.
The lost castration scene from Freaks Pulse.
Okay, so let me run this by y'all's real quick because I actually did some research on this too. Todd Browning's Freaks, the ending, there's an alternate original ending of Freaks, which I can't even fucking believe because it was made in the 30s, and this is such a crazy idea. So in the alternate ending, and I'm not making any of this up, apparently it shows like the duck woman that's in it, she's sitting on like a tray, a plate or something like that, which gets struck by lightning. And then I guess it's her husband is the Hercules guy. He ends up getting castrated and starts to sing falsetto like opera style. And that that ends up being the end of the movie. Now I can't imagine why that's never been seen.
That's hardcore, man, for like what was that, 1931, 1932, something like that.
Yeah.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna cut this guy's Peter off. That's gonna end.
I'm just wondering, like, in 32, how far like into detail did they go with that? Like, how did you know he got his Peter cut off?
Here's one.
Was it like the Val Venus storyline where you just saw the guy?
You're talking about something from the early 1930s. The odds on that being found, it's a cut scene from an already like older than hell movie. I don't think that's that probably doesn't exist anymore. One that I had on my list, on my short list, Rambo brought up the segment with Jake the Snake and Hulk Hogan that was supposed to start a feud with heel Jake the Snake versus babyface Hogan in like 86, 87, something like that. It was a snake pit segment. They recorded 3 or 4 different versions of the segment. The first time I heard about this in detail was on the Jake the Snake documentary, where Vince was so excited about it, and he talks about, you know, the segment and what all happens. And Hogan, then, this was like 87, so he's like 3 years into his title run, hotter than hell everywhere he was going. And I can't remember the town they were in, but they had the snake pit segment. And ultimately it ended in Jake the Snake giving the Hulkster a DDT. And people were cheering and people were chanting DDT at this town. This was like a one-off. You know, they only did the segment one time, and it was recorded for like a Superstar show.
So guess what?
Vince was fucking madder than hell.
Yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't work for me, brother.
Well, not only that, but like Vince was not happy, and that segment, there's rumors that it may have got out, but it's never been seen. I'm sure WWE has it to keep everything, but they didn't bring. That's not out there. That never came out on anything. You would think if the perfect opportunity was that Jake the Snake DVD, they didn't bring it out for that, man. I mean, maybe they don't know where it's at. Maybe they haven't digitized it yet. I don't know.
I don't know either. I just know that run would have been amazing, and I hate the fact that didn't ever come to be. But that wasn't the way they were booking shit at that time, so I can completely understand that. Like, you weren't going to have fucking Jake Snake be the face
Well, the
Hogan be the heel.
interesting thing is Jake the Snake turned babyface very shortly after all that too.
Yeah. But he's not going to beat Hogan. He's not going to get cheered over Hogan, I should say.
Nobody. Hogan was on fire at this point. They weren't going to do shit to the whole
Manic Exorcism, we did talk about that about, I don't know, 30 minutes ago. So, yeah. That's
the Under the Giant thing. TJ's got one here. An extended Night of the Living Dead scene that was lost in a flood. During that weird edits, they have in a theatrical version. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But I don't recall anything about the scene. Do you, Uncle Bill?
No.
So what else you got, pal?
Well,
were we missing a super chat here or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
Appreciate all the super chats tonight, though, guys. Definitely.
I think the last one was carded and we got that one. Okay. So the other one, and I'm sorry, but a lot of these are downers. They just are, because a lot of this is missing for a reason. But do you know the Aaron Ralston story?
That name sounds familiar, but enlighten me, brother.
Okay, so Aaron Ralston was the real life guy that got his fucking arm stuck in the rock that the film 127 Hours was based on, right?
Yeah.
So he actually had a video camera with him that he recorded a lot of that time period of when his arm, like you can find some of that stuff, like of like, footage of him with his arm stuck in this fucking rock, just saying different things, talking about like what's going on, talking about his family and things like that. So supposedly there's also like other footage of that's missing. Now, nobody's saying that he had the fucking camera on when he cut his arm off or anything like that, or
I think he did.
his arm.
I think he
but
had.
It's very possible that he could have. Yeah.
Like I remember them interviewing him on some show where he described what he had to do to cut his fucking arm off. Like first he had to break it off, like snap it pretty much. Could you imagine that? And then cut through the bone marrow and the flesh and everything.
How the fuck do you do that? Like, just I guess like if you get to a point where you're like, I'm gonna die, like if I don't do this, like there's no way I'm not gonna die. I guess you'll just do anything. But man, I don't know how you just are able to do that to yourself.
Like quickly just snap your arm at the shoulder or whatever.
Can you fucking imagine like sawing through your own arm?
Can you imagine the pain of that? That's very painful, I'm sure. But yeah, he saved his life. I mean, but he's, still missing his arm.
Yeah, that is some Saw type of shit. That's some real life, like Carrie Elway shit right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's some. I don't know if the footage. I think that he did say that there's film footage of that, though.
Well, I'm glad we never need to see that. There's film footage of Sid breaking his fucking leg, and I wish I'd never seen that. So I can't imagine watching some guy saw his arm off.
I've got some big ones coming up. So do you want to do a little brief intermission? I can't.
Sure.
I've been wanting to play this all night, but I can't figure out a way to do it. So this is just a brief intermission, folks. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Good stuff, y'all.
Okay. So the next one, and I'm going to have to control myself. I talked to Rob about this earlier because I want to know what he thought of this. We're from Eastern Kentucky, so we got to be careful with topics like this. So I'm going to try to control myself a little bit.
Shit. I'm not saying nothing because I know what this is going to be. You fucking know is.
What?
Yeah, I know what it is. I'm not saying nothing about it. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I'm not allowed to talk about this.
Have you ever seen it?
Nope. Never will.
We're not talking about the same thing.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm talking about from 1946, Walt Disney Company, and also a Killer Alabama song, but the movie A Song of the South, Uncle Bill. You've never seen it?
Never seen it. I don't have any desire to see it.
Why?
I just don't. I don't know. Number one, like I'm not a big Walt Disney fan anyway. I'm a fan of the place more so than I am like the movies and the whole backstory, but I damn sure ain't watching that. I feel like I go to hell immediately just for watching that movie.
So, okay. I understand kind of where Disney's coming from, but at the same time, so this is a movie from 1946. It's set in 1870s, shortly after the Civil War in the South, where it was there was still slavery going on. It was starting to be abolished a little bit and everything. So the central character in this is a slave, Uncle Bill.
Tell me that you've got the DO thing ready somewhere. Tell me you got it.
So
that's what I have to say about this whole conversation.
But listen to some of this. I'm not going to give any opinion on it other than the fact that, I mean, I see where they're coming from, but I think that the reasoning that they're given is not like it's glorified. They're saying it's glorifying slavery.
Right.
It's glorifying those, what they call it? What were they called back then? The farms and stuff. I don't even know. That they were all living at, which I get. I mean, they're trying to make it seem like it was the plantation. There you go. They were trying to make it seem like it was a happy place, and it just wasn't. That wasn't true. So I get all that, but this movie has never been released in the United States in home video. Disney made money from this movie multiple times in theaters as late as 1986 when they opened. What?
86, they're showing this?
They showed this theatrically in 1986 to commemorate, and make no fucking mistake about it. You can say what you want to, Disney, fucking cocksuckers. Splash Mountain is a Song of the South ride that opened in 1986.
That's true. That they just closed that for that very reason, actually, because it had anything to do with that movie.
When asked about it, Bob Iger said that it's not appropriate in today's world and it will never be re-released. It was the highest grossing movie in 1946. It was. And it was like, I don't think it's a bad movie, Uncle Bill. I'm going to be honest with you. It's got some stuff in it that has not aged well. It's a product of its time. I wish you'd watch it. I would like to see what you thought about the movie. I want you to see it.
I'll watch it. I'll go ahead and do it.
Because
just go ahead and if I had that deal thing here, I'd fucking hit it again. That's right. All right.
But seriously though, like, okay, it's been released in other countries, which I guess that's beyond Disney's control. I don't know how that works over there. It's public domain, I think, in Spain at this point, and there's Blu-rays of it out and everything, but Disney keeps saying since you won't watch the movie, let's watch the trailer. I've got the 1986 theatrical re-release trailer saved on here. 1986.
Well, we can go ahead and watch that just for nostalgia's sake.
Shits and giggles. It's only a minute and 9 seconds. See how offended you are with this.
Oh, God.
Walt Disney's classic Song of the South is back. Zip, 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 zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay.
My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Mr. Bluebird's on my shoulder.
It's the truth. It's actual. Everything is satisfaction.
Zippity-doo-dah.
Zippity-yay.
My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day.
Walt Disney's Song of the South. My oh my, what a wonderful movie.
Zippity-yay.
1986. It was a wonderful movie, Uncle Bill.
That's right. It's like, what? That narrator's like, my oh my, what a wonderful film. And he's like, I don't think it was. Like, I'm not really like that progressive, but even I can recognize that that's pretty fucking bad. There's a super chat here somewhere. I'm gonna get to the super chat, or I'm gonna die trying. Bronson Wright Wolf again. What are your thoughts on Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman in Sleepy Hollow?
Christopher Walken's one of those guys that when I see him in anything, it's interesting. I mean, I'm at least interested in seeing how he's going to act on camera.
Christopher Walken is the same to me as Nicolas Cage. He's either going to be like amazing or just out of his fucking gourd, like goofy, and there's really no in between. But I like Sleepy Hollow anyway.
Steven's got a request.
Does he?
Yeah. I can't say that, but you know. So get this one now. This is Coco Ant 78. Yep, I saw that in the theater as a kid. I loved it. I'm half black and didn't think anything of it, but I was probably around 8 years old.
I've never seen it.
Dude, like, why though? Why are you never going to watch it? You've seen way worse shit than that.
Well, I mean, there's just certain things in my life that I don't really feel the need to watch. Fucking, I don't want to watch a Serbian film either. I mean, I just know certain things are going to be in these movies that I don't need to see at 40 some years old.
I would be interested in seeing if you let your kids watch it, what they thought of it.
Oh my God. Can we move off this fucking movie? What make my kids watch shit?
I think that it's been over exaggerated over the years from Disney in particular. And I fucking hate Disney.
I do too. Can we also just for a second move off of this topic and move into like shoving sharks into people's vaginas? Because that's the next thing I want to talk about.
I love, that's my favorite pastime.
Yes, Roger Ebert, I dyed my hair.
I saw a photo from earlier. It's posted online that assures you that you didn't dye your hair. You got a lot of gray in your hair, Uncle Bill. You're getting to be an old motherfucker.
I also dye my pubic hair. But I don't go in for the just for me and shit. I just fucking
dye my pubic hair. I'm shaved down there, Uncle Bill.
Thank God.
I'm slick as come on a gold tooth, brother.
You're slicker than a minnows tail, ain't you? Anyway, I'm not even joking about this though. So do you know what I'm talking about though? The infamous Led Zeppelin mud shark. They call it the mud shark incident video.
I don't think that exists.
Okay, so hear me out. Because it's supposed to be real. At least the event happened, but I don't know if there's any actual footage, but hear me out on this, okay? So the incident involved members of Vanilla Fudge and Led Zeppelin's road managers and supposedly all of the members of Led Zeppelin. So according to two different stories, Here's what supposedly happened. Okay. So the road manager says that it wasn't John Bonham. A lot of the stories reported it was John Bonham that caught a mud shark and then inserted it into a groupie. But he says that it wasn't John Bonham, it was actually him. And he says it wasn't shark parts or anything like that. It wasn't even a shark, he says. It was actually a red snapper fish that they had caught.
Well, they like exaggerating shit, don't they?
Yeah. And that the red snapper was, what's the word I can use here? The red snapper was used in inappropriate ways with this groupie, but and that this was filmed, by the way, and that it was mutual. It wasn't like a like, how do I say this? According to him, it wasn't like she wasn't in on it. Like she actually wanted this to be done, according to this guy. Who the fuck knows what the truth is about that? And supposedly the video is yet to be found or even confirmed to exist, but one of the guys claims to have given the tapes to Vanilla Fudge's road manager, and I'm not joking about this. The road manager's name is Bruce Wayne.
Batman has it, boss. It's in the Batcave.
Batman's got it. I'd heard this story, man. This is one of those stories where, like, when you listen to hard rock and metal, it's kind of like a urban legend lore kind of thing. And I had always heard that it was John Bonham and that it was a shark. That's always been the way that I heard it until, like, I read this story that it wasn't even apparently like a shark or anything like that. And it wasn't even anything done by anybody from Led Zeppelin. It was just like one of the roadie guys. So, yeah.
I don't think that exists, man, because it would have had to have been a film camera. I mean, maybe one of those little 8mm cameras or something. Like there could be just raw footage of it or something like that, but it's highly unlikely it still exists if it's, So one of the things
Crash 517, read that comment. That's nice.
Late to live stream, going to watch from the beginning. Girlfriend was over and it was time to get some. Get you some, son. Has she got any gold teeth, Crash 517?
Does she have a red snapper?
Ooh. As long as it's not too red.
Bob
ooh. As long as it's not too red, Steve.
Fuck.
We're getting a collection of some good shit. Where's Bug-Eyed Betty been? Well, I ain't seen her in a while.
Oh, Bug-Eyed Betty. Bam, lamb.
Bug-Eyed Betty. Bam, lamb. Bug-Eyed Betty. Bam, lamb. Oh, Betty has to play.
This is what we were talking about on the roundtable discussion a couple of weeks ago. The Tales from the Crypt 35mm source material.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people may not realize this. Tales from the Crypt was a TV show that was shot in 35mm, but was edited on video. So the masters of Tales from the Crypt is video. They were edited on video. The source material, if it exists, if they wanted to do a Blu-ray of it, they would have to hire somebody to scan all that material in. And Felcher's talked about this before. I think he's done this before. And re-edit the show.
Jesus. You imagine how long that shit would take?
Yeah. This was a co-production between HBO New World and Studio Canal. The masters used for the DVDs that they did many years ago were taken from VHS masters, which it was basically, those big fat VHS tapes that the studios use. So yeah, the odds on us ever getting remastered Tales from the Crypt Blu-ray, it's probably never going to happen, unfortunately. And a lot of that footage, or that show in general, is held up in a lot of legal tape right now, I think.
Why is it in legal limbo like that? Is it just because of the?
It's HBO and EC Comics for the rights
Yeah.
of the. I mean, I'm sure HBO wants to do a new Tales from the Crypt show, and the episodes are freely available on YouTube. It's interesting because it's like, nobody, I guess they're fighting for who owns the rights for the show and the name and everything else. TJ is asking about Tales from the Dark Side. It's the same. Yeah. That was edited on video, but it's masters on film. The film masters for some of those episodes are known to exist and people know where they're at. So it's a little bit more likely we may see some remastered Tales from the Dark Side. I think we were talking to Sleepy about that at one point in time, right?
We were, yeah. We talked a lot about that on, I think, one of the last ones of those that we did. By the way, did we mention that coming up May the 3rd, we're going to be talking to Felsher and Dawn May about the new Trick or Treat release?
It's going to be huge. Everybody's excited. I think this is possibly, it could be the release of the year, of the fall for sure, Uncle Bill. Release that around late September, early October.
Yeah, they got to. That's what they got to be getting ready to do. That makes the most sense. Even if it's like $50, $60, which I'm sure it will be, I'm still going to buy it. That's like a have to purchase. It doesn't exist on anything. Like, it's not like it had a Blu-ray or anything like that. It just has a shitty old ripped DVD.
Yeah, I mean, a lot, and that's going to be an interesting thing that I'm really curious about. Why did it take this long for Trick or Treat to officially come out? So a lot of people have been messaging me, oh, there's a Blu-ray that came out in fucking Portugal or whatever. That's a fucking bootleg. Okay. I don't know what people don't understand about that shit. When these like fucking shit ass studios release Blu-rays of fucking,
if we ever had a company, I want it to be called Shit Ass Studios. Give it to a film. Yeah.
That's not a legit release. So this one coming up from Synapse is the very first remastered from the original source material official disc release from Trick or Treat. So I don't want to, if I hear any more messages from people, but oh God, there's a fucking one that come out in Spain.
Wow, you really don't like these overseas titles.
People ain't no fucking sense, boy. We've been in the game a long time, Bill. We should know. We ain't gonna say nothing unless it's damn fact.
People are like, I know you're wrong. There's one that came out in fucking Belize. I've got it.
I've got the Portuguese Blu-ray. Fuck you. We come out there.
You dummies don't know what you're talking about. The mayor says, shit ass studios is in partners label for Vinegar Syndrome. Yeah.
That could be a shirt, man. Shit ass studios.
Oh God. Oh, what's up, Christian? Christian.
My screen froze up there for a second.
You did. You were froze up.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Planet CHH. What's going on, sir? We're just talking about stupid people on here tonight. Speaking of stupid people, Roger Ebert's back from the grave. Have you seen Sleeping? I'm not going to say that.
No. Hope they make a remake. It's so good. Yeah, we got a lot of wise stuff from that one.
How many more you got on here, Uncle Bill, for these?
We got
one big one. Is it the old one?
What do you mean old one?
Well, the one that everybody's been mentioning on here that we haven't talked about.
Oh, no, huh?
Okay, then what do you got?
Okay, so this is one of my favorites just because I love this story behind this. I don't know how many people know this story, and I know a lot of people hate Kevin Smith, but he told one of the funniest goddamn stories ever on one of those. There used to be like these shows called The Evening with Kevin Smith where he would just do like kind of stand-up stuff where he would talk about his life and stuff that's happened and the movies and things like that. Well, one of the stories that he told, and I think it's on the third one, if I'm not mistaken, is one of my favorite stories, and I would love to have the footage of this. But he tells the story of that Prince commissioned him to do a documentary, and he thought that the documentary was going to be like a documentary about Prince, like a rock and roll kind of documentary. As it turns out, Prince wanted a documentary about he is what is he? He's a Jehovah's Witness. So he wanted a documentary about that. And what quickly became apparent is that all of the footage that Prince wanted him to do was just stuff related to him talking about religion and asking, like, getting groups of people together in this room and asking them about religion and asking them their thoughts about religion, and then having basically what would be like a sermon about what he thought about religion. So these tapes, there's like hours upon hours of footage Kevin Smith talks about in this, and it's all this documentary that he was supposedly putting together. And then apparently Prince was notorious for doing this shit. He just got to a point where he didn't want to make it. So he took all of the tapes, put them in his vault where they remain to this day and will probably never, ever be
Kevin
seen.
Smith was paid in full and everything. And
Oh, yeah.
he was fine because he has that Prince money, or he did.
Yeah. But somewhere there's like hours of footage of Prince basically evangelizing a bunch of people about Jehovah's Witnesses.
I've got a couple more on here. One quick one, another wrestling one. Do you remember WrestleMania 36 back in 2020, Uncle Bill?
I probably didn't watch that one. That seems too new for me.
This was right when the COVID-19 thing started, like probably a couple weeks after the COVID outbreak. And this was like probably the most depressing WrestleMania of all time. But there's an interesting story behind it because this WrestleMania was the first one that was shot in 2 nights. And it was the first one that aired in 2 nights, and it was shot a week ahead of time. So to keep spoilers out there, because there's a lot of wrestlers that, that message reporters back and forth and everything, they filmed alternate finishes to multiple matches on the show out of fear that the finishes are going to be leaked and people will know because they recorded it a week early. It's not like they recorded it one night and aired it the next. No, it was a week ahead of time. So the alternate finishes of the matches, who knows what they are? I think the wrestlers didn't even know what they were going to go with. So it's probably one of the most bizarre cases of lost media. Do you think something like that would ever see the light of day?
What do you think? I mean, with the events and shit, the way that things are, probably not. No.
I mean, that's given, like, they give away a lot on there. That, like, the kayfabe is pretty much done, but that's like,
yeah,
I don't know how you would air that.
I don't either, man. That's just something that probably shouldn't be seen. I'm not as bad as like Jim Cornette or anything, but I do believe you got to have a little bit of fucking mystery, like, to it, a little bit of intrigue. You can't just pull the curtain back and show every goddamn thing, Lord.
There was one other one on here, and then we'll get to the big one because people know what the big one is. The Noah's Ark early talk movie from 1928. Have you heard the story behind this one?
No.
So this was a gigantic budget movie for, the late 20s. There were 7,500 extras that worked on the film during the flood scene, which is like the climax of the movie. 600,000 gallons of water was used. 3 extras were drowned, and there was one that was injured so badly.
I did hear about this. Sorry.
That his leg needed to be amputated. A number of people suffered, broken bones and serious injuries and stuff like that. And it was really the movie that started the beginning of like stunt safety regulations in Hollywood. One of the extras, though, this is interesting, was a young John Wayne,
What
1928. Yeah. The evidently there is this movie is around, but the original cut of the movie, 2 hours and 15 minutes, is believed to be lost. They restored part of it, I think, up to an hour and 8 minutes. But evidently some of that footage that was cut, which that's a very long movie for 1928. That was unheard of. Movies in the 20s and 30s was max 70 minutes, 75 minutes long. But evidently it's death footage in some of those shots. Some of the people that passed away, definitely ones that got seriously injured, was in that long 2 hour and 15-minute cut of the movie. Which is another one that's believed to be lost.
Now, you could probably have a whole show just on like stunt accidents that probably will never see the light of day, because there have been hundreds of stuntmen that have died like making movies, in terms of like, especially with helicopters. Did you ever hear that? Like, apparently in the stunt world, like helicopters are the most dangerous fucking thing to try to do. I'm not sure why exactly that is, but there's been so many different like helicopter accidents and deaths and things like that from these movies that they've tried to pull these stunts off in, that it's almost like that they don't even try to use helicopters anymore. It's so dangerous.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't even want to get on a helicopter. Like, you go to the fair and pay $10 to ride a fucking helicopter. No. I ain't never getting on no fucking helicopter.
No.
What do you think?
Last time I was at, this is no shit, I don't know if I told you this or not. Last time we went to the carnival down there, and I don't remember when this was exactly, whenever it was, like when they put it up last time, Savannah and the kids were riding what was essentially just like a tilt-a-whirl, and she was on it, and bolts and shit started flying out of it. And then it started making a noise that sounded like the trains when they stop around here.
Wow.
And they had to stop it, and they never fixed it or put it back up after that ride. Like, they stopped it, shut it down, and nobody else got back on it the rest of the time it was down there. So fuck a bunch of like any kind of carnival rides, man. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I fucking hate carnivals and fucking parades and all that shit. So the big one, and this is one that's, it's the first movie that anybody brought up when we were doing this show. And it's probably the most sought after. And I think it's got some interesting, there's some rumors that come out every once in a while that the film has been found. But still to this day, Todd Browning's film from 1927, the guy that would, later go on to do Dracula. And we talked about Freaks a little bit earlier. He was one of the original creepy Kentuckians back in the day, our buddy Todd. This is one of his very early ones. The Hypnotist, aka London After Midnight, American mystery horror film, silent film, starring Lon Chaney, Marceline Day, Conrad Nagel, Henry Waltill, and Polly Moran. Wonder if there's any relation to Tony.
Oh God, probably.
The
London
film
After
was
Midnight, though.
Yeah, it's made by and distributed by MGM. It's the film costs $151,000 and grossed over $1 million in 1927. So it was a pretty big hit. The last known copy of the film was destroyed in an MGM fire vault. It says here 1965, TJ. I don't know if it's 65 or 67. Along with hundreds of other rare early films, making it one of the most sought after silent films. Film historian William K. Everson and David Bradley claim that they saw the film in the early 50s, and an MGM vault inventory from 1955 shows the print being stored in vault number 7. What do you think, Uncle Bill?
You mean, what do I think, that does it exist or not?
Well, there's photos out there. All of the press photos still exist. We see what what Lon Chaney's vampire character looked like.
Right. Which was amazing, by the way.
For the time, yeah, very innovative. I think Lon Chaney did a lot of his own makeup, right? Didn't he do his own makeup in this?
He probably did. His big thing was like he used a lot of appliance, like stuff that would like hold his nose back and shit, which apparently was very painful. Like he would tape it almost like upwards for like Phantom of the Opera and stuff like that. And he had like special ways to do that kind of stuff.
We need to do a cover of London After Midnight, boys.
London After Midnight.
Here's my thinking in this. Now, 1927, I know how movies were distributed then. How many prints of these movies were made? Obviously, there was more than one, right? There should have been more than one. It opened in even if it did Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York, that's 3 copies. Okay. So the master was destroyed. Is that correct? Is that what they're saying? Or is it just the only known copy? It says the last known copy of the film was destroyed. So this is the last known copy. How many copies were printed up? That's what I'm asking.
That's a good question. I think, though, man, that if this movie was going to be found, like this is the oldest example of a lost film that I can think of. If anybody was going to find this, they'd have found it by now, wouldn't they? I mean, Jesus Christ.
I mean, you would think, but you know for a fact that there's probably, attics in London, maybe some in New York City, basements in New York City that people haven't went through them in years and years and years. Could be film collectors that don't realize what they've got. I mean, I think that it's very, very likely that there is a print of this movie out there. Now, that's one that I've always held out hope for, simply because it exists for over 40 years. Is that right? That's close to 40 years.
Yeah.
I think it's very likely that it's out there. Now, it's going to be one of those cases where if we get to see it, it's not going to live up to the hype at all. It's probably like, whatever, who cares? So the legend is better than it ever being found, I think.
Of course. I just, I don't know. Like, I just don't think that they find that like now. And because at this point, I would think somebody would make a documentary or like do a crowd fund or something to try to find this fucking movie. You know what I mean? Like, seems to me like that would make, if somebody hasn't done that, that would make an amazing documentary where they just like, that's the whole point, is to track down this movie. They spend a bunch of money, like they do research, they get a private investigator, like yada, yada, fucking yada. Has anybody done that? Because this is the most famous lost movie ever.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not like going like you can't get the fucking American Pickers to go out and just fucking find it. I think it's very, very likely that something is out there on this movie. I mean, it was too big of a success. It was around. My big thing is it was around for 40 years. So I think it's definitely possible that it's out there, but the legend is, I think, better than what ultimately the movie would be if we ever got to see it. There's been people that's remade it using the script or whatever they used back then. I don't think they had a script, but I think even Todd Browning remade it as Mark of the Vampire starring Bela Lugosi in 1935. That's
So
Wikipedia, buddy.
Yeah. Justin Toner brings up a good point, though. He says, Hello Pop was a 33 short featuring the Three Stooges with Ted Healy before they became famous. It was thought lost for good until a copy was found in Australia in 2013.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Never give up. Yeah. There's always a little hope. Like a little bit of cream in the coffee. Yeah. So yeah, guys, I mean, we got to end it with London After Midnight just because that's the ultimate lost horror film. That's the one everybody always goes back to. So let us know, guys, what y'all thought of this. I mean, I had a lot of fun finding different topics to go over on Lost Media, and there are all kinds of really cool videos on Lost and disturbing media online. It's kind of a big thing on Reddit as well. So it's fun to research shows like this, but man, it's one that we can't do often because we went through a bunch tonight. It's the, it's
we had 2 hours of basically, just going back and forth. So yeah, I will say that, like, give us ideas for other shows like this, because I enjoy doing stuff like this. I enjoy like trying to find stuff, putting together shows that are not necessarily just like showing off your Blu-rays and you fucking DVDs and shit. Yeah. Much fun as that is, and it is fun sometimes.
I mean, I enjoy doing it too. We're probably going to do a Hall of Mania eventually.
Yeah.
Again, but I mean, we're old school, Uncle Bill. I mean, we actually watch the movies instead of just fucking like.
Yeah, I've actually got a whole pile that I've watched, like right in front of me. Imagine it.
But that's why we're not Blue Tubers, by the way. But anyway, we love the Blue Tubers too, but don't get us confused. We were around before Blu-ray was even around. We've been around a long time. What else we got coming up though? I know May the 3rd, Michael Felcher, Don May Jr. when we're talking about trick or treats. No tricks, only treats on May the 3rd. 9 p.m. There's 9.
I want to plug this real quick. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, me and Rambo and Stuntman Mark are doing just like a fucking Q&A bullshit, 10 o'clock show. So we will be doing that, answering anybody's questions, AMA style kind of stuff. Just talking about films, action films, horror films, the world of films, comedies, dramas, sci-fi, pornography, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, and other stuff we got coming up. I know that we're going to have Jason Guy on in probably a couple of weeks talking about some, screen used film props. He's got one really, really cool one that he's going to showcase on that stream. He's the guy recently that sold nubbins on a Heritage Auction site. And we're going to have to do a review. How much did he
get for that, by the way? I never knew.
He told me it wasn't what he had in it. It was, I can't remember what it went for. I'm thinking it was around like 13 or 14,000 maybe. I don't know.
How much did he fucking have in it?
I have no. We bought it from Savini. Savini's the one that had it, so that Savini's going to fucking.
Savini's not gonna.
You're not going to get a deal.
He probably had 20 to 25,000 in it then.
Jackson Jack's got a good idea, and I'm just going to let him talk about that. Yeah. But we appreciate everybody share the video and stuff too. Send apps and everything. They're sharing their stuff and getting word out about that big show coming up on Wednesday. Killing of America, the documentary, is one that we're going to have a review of coming up. And I watched the first 5 seconds of it, and I'm like, God.
Is it bad?
It's very graphic. I think it was a little bit ahead of its time. I'll just say that. We'll talk about that in a future review video and stuff. But lots of stuff on the Patreon page. One thing real quick here. I was going to promote. We do have a sale right now on shop.deadpit.com. It's $16 t-shirts, and everything else is up to 35% off, including that lovely Pit of Hell t-shirt. So check that out. And Uncle Bill and Stuntman and Rambo's Q&A tomorrow night. Ask me anything. We'll have to come up with another snazzy thumbnail for that while I'm thinking about it. But all right, guys, it's getting late. I'm gonna go pass out. I'll let Uncle Bill go take him some tussin so he can get over the COVID. What do you do? Did they ever say there's anything that you can actually just take or no?
No, not really. They tell you to take basically just treat the symptoms. So if you have a cough, you take cough medicine, and if you have like congestion, you take congestion medicine. There's really nothing to vitamin D, I've heard, but then I heard it doesn't do shit. And then like they were saying for a long time zinc, but then I heard it doesn't do shit. Who knows?
Only the shadow. But yeah, I appreciate everybody coming on. We've had well over 100 people the entire night on here. No, we're not the only one streaming, so we appreciate all the support and everything, and like the videos and finger fuck the like button, do whatever the hell you want to do with it.
Right.
And I guess we will see you guys. Well, Uncle Bill and crew will see you tomorrow. And I think I'm going to have Alpha Romero is actually going to be on the MWO this week. He's got a new YouTube page, and I kind of want to get that out there. And man, all right, this is hyping his YouTube page up. I don't even know if he's still on here, but he did a review, and I didn't even know this exists, of Eugene Clark, Big Daddy from Land of the Dead, did like a fucking Barry White like CD like style. What style music is that?
Like soul.
It's fucking exact. Like the first song that he played, I died laughing out loud. I'm like, holy shit! I gotta get him to rip this CD for me because it's fucking great. He's like, I'm gonna love you all night long, baby. I want you to play with my dong as it gets all veiny.
Oh my god! Yeah, I probably need to hear that.
We'll talk about that. That's on the Alpha Romero channel if you guys want to check it out. He reviews every song on there, so. He's got some good stuff though. Brand new channel. But anyway, guys, yeah, we've been on here well over 2 hours. We will catch you guys next time over at deadpit.com. Give us the thumbs up. Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I don't care. Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
Hey folks, it's Oak Early Jaws. I might be banned off of YouTube, but that doesn't mean I can get you some great shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. First, we got Steve Benningfield post goes against our community standards in nudity or sexual activity. We got the deadpit.com shirt. We got Cardboard. We got L Lord. We got Tales from the Dark Side. We got Dead Pit. And we got a Princess Puffin shirt, boss. It doesn't get any fucking better. Brandon, add the accident. Aww. But these shirts just get better and better, boss. You gotta go over to shop.deadpit.com and pick you up some shirts right fucking now. What are you fucking waiting for? Do it. Do it now, because Old Curly Jaw said so.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Dead Pit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.